offer health insurance. I'm one of the lucky ones. I have an employer-based health plan that has not gone away. But I've talked to people that were lied to and lost their insurance. I've heard about how they could be older folks, maybe even never had kids, and yet the new policy they get under Obamacare requires them to have specific riders that cover all kinds of things for kids. They don't have kids. Why in the world do they need to pay that? But that's how they broke y'all in one big package to suck more money out of your wallet. The premiums go up. And the other big thing, and why I think that we have a chance here is, you know, bad public policy is when you don't even achieve your goal. Now, we wouldn't necessarily support Obamacare even if it was effective, okay? But think about it. The White House says that at the end of their successful implementation of Obamacare, there will still be 30 million unemployed Americans. But we'll have the trillion in debt, we'll have the hundreds of thousands of jobs lost and everything else. So I think getting the government out of any of these decisions by repealing it, replacing it with common sense reforms, is something. In the meantime, if we can tweak it around the edges while President Obama is still in office, we'll take a look at that and do that. I think there's things we should try to do in that sense to start the process back. But I think that these bills are a symptom of the fact that government is way too involved in our lives. The Obamacare Act created 10,000 new IRS positions to enforce it, but not one new doctor. That's not my idea of how to fix it.
I've met a lot of people on the campaign trail, and this is a big hot issue, especially in Southwest Iowa. We have many small businesses, and they're going to have to make a decision because hours are going to put. How many employees are going to keep? How long they're going to have to work? So, my contention is we have to get rid of this Obamacare. 30 hours to 40 hours. Why not make it 20? Who are they kidding? Do they think the American people are stupid? This is awful. The American people have had it because of the silliness that goes on in Washington, D.C. People are struggling just to keep a job. Just to keep a job. And hopefully have the insurance from their employer. 30 hours, 40 hours. Those will come up with something different. They've changed. How many times have they changed the Affordable Care Act? 47 or 48 times? Do they think, does Mr. Obama think that the American people are just going to sit still and let this happen? And let this happen? Well, I'm not. I'm not. I'm fearless, ladies and gentlemen. I am fearless. I will take on Mr. Obama. In fact, I'll take him on in a basketball game too, because he likes to play basketball. But this is serious, ladies and gentlemen. People need to have insurance to go to the doctor. And if we let this happen, and there are people in office, if they let it happen, they need to all be primary and voted out of office. And that's the only way you change things in Washington, D.C., is to vote them all out of office. So that we can be proud of the United States of America. Our country's been started, our country's all about work ethic. From my father having a fruit and vegetable store with his brother working 7 days a week, we should not limit the people on how many hours they work. You want to work hard to make as much money as you want, and if your insurance covers you, it should cover you. Thank you.
I certainly believe we need to retain the 40-hour work week, and you know that this is not a partisan issue. You know, who's ever sponsoring that bill, I bet you there's just as many Democrats on there as Republicans. Americans want to work, and you see the loudest critics of this 30-hour work week are unions. They are seeing that their health care plan and money that they're making for the families disappear. So I would retain the 40-hour without going on and on this, but more so, we need to watch this administration and what they try to do behind the scenes with hourly wages, trying to increase minimum wage unilaterally through executive order, that kind of thing. We have to watch this administration. This president doesn't much really care about the Congress or getting any kind of legislation sent to him. You know, he's got his phone, he says, and he's got his pen. And he's going to have a real happy day, he says, doing all this kind of stuff with executive orders. But we have to watch those. And whether it's demolishing the 40-hour work week or anything else, it's the rule of law that we really have to be concerned about.
You know what's refreshing about this conversation? In recent times, we're having a conversation about legislation rather than executive orders. Last I heard, there was 19 executive orders, which is unconstitutional for the president to change the intent of the law. Though I don't like the law, he does not have the power to do that. Answer your question, yes, I would support moving it to 40 hours. I believe that businesses attract employees, this is what happens where I come from, based on their benefits and based on salaries. I think those decisions are best left to the businesses. This bill is a job killer. What it's doing is it has its intentions to make everybody a part-time employee. Because that's what's going on in the business world. Talk to business owners. We have a little over 200 employees, and we provide health insurance for them. And of course, the executive order is delayed until after the election for it to fully be implemented. We're going through those conversations to see how we can efficiently buy health insurance, but still at the same time provide a good benefit package. Those decisions need to be with the business owners, because we're not dumb. We will go as employees and find out who has the best benefits. Thank you.
Well, you're hearing a lot of the same stuff. So being the last person is kind of tough, but I'll tell you, I mean, I just like everybody else, we've got to repeal Obamacare, and I don't think by just moving it to 40 hours a week it's going to fix it. It's not going to fix it. Quite frankly, there shouldn't be a mandate at all, whether it's 30 hours a week or 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week or 20 hours a week. There shouldn't be a mandate. We need to get rid of it. And so, you know, businesses need to make decisions, and businesses shouldn't be in a position where they're saying, well, I got to move you to 40 hours a week instead of 45, or 30 hours a week instead of 20, or, I mean, we shouldn't even be having this discussion, because there shouldn't be a mandate, and businesses shouldn't have to be making decisions based on it. I think Americans are hard workers. We all want to work hard. I don't think anybody wants to be limited to a 30-hour work week. You know, I mean, it is part of being an American is to work hard. So, I kind of reject the premise of the question in the sense that I don't think it's going to fix it. I don't think it's going to help. It's going to even fix it for businesses by moving it to 40, 45. We need to get rid of the mandate altogether. And that's what I want to work to do. And I'm asking you to send me to Congress to do it. Thank you.
Next question, and Mr. Brandonette will be the first speaker. The next question is, a proposed raising of the minimum wage nationwide has been put on the table. What is your position regarding raising the minimum wage how do you think it would affect Iowa businesses? And how do you think it would affect the economy nationwide?
Oh, this one's right down my alley. This is a good question. Being a small business owner, and coming from a business owner family, and $10.50, why are they stopping there? Why don't you just make it $25 an hour? Just make it $25 an hour. Make it $50 an hour. $10.50 was never, this is just an arbitrary figure that they've said that you can live on $10.50. No one's ever said the minimum wage is supposed to be something you can live on. And I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, a small business owner that owns a Dairy Queen, $7.25. It's a level entry job, and that should not be $10.25. It's only worth $7.25. And if you have a good business going, and you're a good hard worker, you will get paid more than that. And yes, it will affect the small businesses all around the country more so than the big businesses, because they won't be able to afford help anymore, and they will either cut back their hours or cut back their times because they won't have enough employees and their margins are lower, and then eventually, they'll probably have to shut the door because they won't have enough profits. It's too stale. Ladies and gentlemen, $10.50. The people in Washington, this is ludicrous. They've gone crazy to say that we mandate the whole country at $10.50 or $10.25. They says, let the market take care of itself, and if your business provides the profit, and you have a good employee, you give him more money, he or she is worth it, and that's how it works in this country. If you're a bad employee, you don't get your raise, you stay at a lower level. But ladies and gentlemen, $10.50, I don't know why they even say that. Why do they think that is going to be pay your bills if you're a grown man or grown woman with a family? It doesn't. It doesn't. And so get rid of it. It shouldn't even be part of what we're talking about. I'm ashamed to even talk about that we have to even say something about $10.50 or whatever it is, $10.25. But the American people, that this is will be able to pay your bills, because it doesn't. It doesn't. You have to work your way up, and if that's the case, if you don't have enough money to pay your bills, get 2 jobs like I did, or get 3 jobs like my dad did. And if that doesn't work, get 4 jobs. And then you have enough money to pay your bills. And then you can have a nice house and a nice home and build your little nest.
Well, I want everybody to make more money. And I'm sure you all do too. But I think the minimum wage may hurt more than it helps. You're going to have small businesses who may want to expand, having a second thought, of course, by looking at their bottom line. And if they were to expand, they could have hired more people. But with a higher minimum wage, the way it's going down, being proposed, those workers, they may get their hours cut back. Employers may cut back on their employees altogether. So if you really want to help this economy, though, I don't think minimum wage is the #1 effort and way to get there. You got to get rid of Obamacare, put more free market system in there, which gives certainty now to employers to hire more people. You got to get at our tax code and simplify it, make it flatter, fair. Let's have that debate and give it certainty and permanence. And let's pass that Keystone Pipeline. I've met manufacturers in western Iowa here who just can't wait for that pipeline to be built so they can hire more welders. Mauer Manufacturing up in northwest Iowa, I met some folks up there, and you know what? They may not be in this district, but they still care about their state and their employees, and they want to hire more folks. They hire pipeline. They hire big pipeline. And if this gets passed, they'll hire more welders, drivers, and there'll be ancillary jobs there. So if you really want to get at the economy, I don't think the minimum wage is the way to go.
I've had a little experience with this at the state capitol. I want everybody to have a living wage. The minimum wage is a minimum wage that's been established that should have never been established to start with. Like I said, I want everyone to have the ability to make a living wage. How do we do that? We go into these businesses, we cut regulations, red tape. If any of you have owned a business, I myself in my hardware store that I had to have someone hired to help me with all the red tape to run a business. We've got to make changes there. We've got to make changes in our tax structure. That's not fair. It's penalizing people that are trying to accomplish the American dream. The unintended effects of raising the minimum wage is simple. Go around and talk to your local grocery store, as I did in Urbandale. What they'll do is they'll be forced to hire less kids. Talk to your nonprofits, because it hurts them as well. The minimum wage and those positions that are out there were for younger people, and those positions where they have opportunities to grow their wage and their salaries. I don't think anybody should be paid the minimum wage. I think we need to create better opportunities for businesses to have people that can make a living wage. Because I don't know very many people that could live on $10.50 an hour. So we need to leave that decision based on the business owners, like I said before, is we're going to go work. My kids will go work. All of us will find the best salary and benefit package. And those decisions need to be made in the private sector. It should be market driven. Thank you.
Well, I think we're going to be in a lot of agreement here. From my perspective, there shouldn't be a federal minimum wage. I don't think the federal government should be setting a minimum wage. I think states should be able to do that. And if a state wants to set up a high minimum wage, so be it. If another state doesn't want to have a minimum wage, so be it. States should be able to compete, and people should be able to make decisions on where they want to live. And I agree with Brad. I mean, we want to be talking about how we get people back to work, how we help businesses hire more people, and setting a minimum wage to $10.10 isn't going to do that. We need to be looking at regulation and trying to make it so that businesses can grow. But having a federal minimum wage at all, I don't think is helpful. Let states decide that, and then let states compete. And I think you'd see the market then come into play. I mean, I remember getting my first job at Hy-Vee. I got paid minimum wage. But I didn't get paid minimum wage very long because I worked really hard. And even as a young kid, 16-year-old, I started off checking people out through the checker line. Then I moved to the dairy department, and I got a raise. I worked really hard in the dairy department and asked for a bigger raise because I proved myself. And that's what happens. I mean, a minimum wage is not something that I think helps people get a higher salary. It's about giving them opportunities. And I think it's about businesses being able to grow. And I think regulations, Obamacare, the government gets in the way. We need the government to get out of the way and let businesses grow. And so that's my position on the minimum wage. Thank you.
Let's see, I'm last, so I have to try to remember the question. I think it was, would you vote for the minimum wage increase that's been discussed in Congress? The answer is no. It's never made sense for me why someone working in Brooklyn, New York, needs to have the same minimum wage as someone working in Brooklyn, Iowa. Two different cost structures, two different cost of living. If states want to do that, that's fine. But not a role of the federal government. And then the Obama folks will come along and say, but wait a minute, we found a 40-year-old guy with a family who's making minimum wage. And isn't it sad? Isn't it sad that in this country of opportunity, their solution to that person who would be in a tough spot? Some of us have been there. Some of us know people have been there. That's a tough spot. But isn't it sad that the solution is, from Obama's side, is to say, well, we have to raise the minimum wage instead of, heaven forbid, put in place